Have you ever wondered why some people effortlessly achieve what seems impossible to others? What if I told you the difference between extraordinary success and mediocrity isn't talent or luck, but rather the mental codes you live by? Today, we're diving deep into the transformative wisdom of Neville Goddard's 7 mental codes that have the power to completely rewire your brain for unprecedented success. These aren't just fleeting motivational phrases, they're profound principles that, when applied consistently, can revolutionize every aspect of your life. But before we begin, please hit the like button and let me know where in the world you're watching from today. It's always fascinating seeing who's joining us from around the globe. And if you haven't already, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any of our future videos. Has this ever happened to you? You set ambitious goals with burning enthusiasm, only to find your motivation evaporating when faced with the first real obstacle. You're not alone. The uncomfortable truth is that nothing truly extraordinary is ever built on convenience. The path to remarkable achievement isn't paved with comfort. It's forged through embracing difficulty when others retreat. Look around at anyone who's achieved greatness in any field. Did they wait for perfect conditions? Did they only work when they felt inspired? Of course not. They understood something crucial that most people miss. Convenience is the enemy of extraordinary. Success demands disciplined action that transcends your comfort zone. It requires the courage to embrace challenges rather than avoid them. Stay with me until the end, because what you're about to discover might completely transform how you approach your goals and dreams. The first mental code that separates high achievers from dreamers is shockingly simple, yet profoundly powerful. Your emotions are not in charge. You are. We've been conditioned to believe that our feelings should guide our actions, but this is precisely what keeps most people trapped in mediocrity. True power emerges when you command yourself to act regardless of emotional states. When your mind whispers, "later," successful people respond with "now." This single decision to act despite not feeling like it creates an unbridgeable gap between those who merely wish and those who actually accomplish. What if you could train yourself to operate from decision rather than feeling? Imagine being able to consistently take action toward your goals, even on days when motivation is nowhere to be found. The freedom that comes from breaking the chains of emotional dependency is what separates ordinary lives from extraordinary ones. Think about the most successful person you know. Do you think they only work when they feel inspired? Do they wait until they're in the mood to tackle important tasks? Or have they mastered the art of commanding themselves, regardless of emotional fluctuations? The truth is that your feelings were designed to protect you, not progress you. They seek comfort, not growth. That's why success often feels uncomfortable, because it demands you go against what feels easy. What you're about to learn will challenge everything you thought you knew about achievement. If these mental codes resonated with you, hit subscribe to join our community of growth-minded individuals committed to mastering their mindset. This hidden truth reveals one of the most transformative mindset shifts you can make on your journey to success. Don't wait for motivation to strike. How many mornings have you woken up waiting to feel motivated before taking action on your dreams? This is precisely where most people's journeys end before they've even begun. Here's the revelation that changed everything for me. Motivation isn't something you wait for. It's something you manufacture through disciplined action. The secret successful people understand is that the sequence most get backward. Movement comes first, emotion follows, not the other way around. Think about it. Have you ever forced yourself to start a workout despite feeling completely unmotivated, only to find yourself energized and inspired halfway through? That's because action creates the very motivation you were waiting for. The decision to begin, despite not feeling ready, is the catalyst for transformation. This principle applies to everything meaningful in life. Writers don't wait for inspiration. They sit down and write until inspiration finds them. Entrepreneurs don't wait until they feel confident. They take imperfect action until confidence emerges from experience. The most profound impact comes from understanding this fundamental truth. Action precedes motivation. The deepest insight I've discovered along my personal journey is something Goddard expressed perfectly. The pain of discipline lasts minutes, but the pain of regret lasts a lifetime. Let that sink in for a moment. Every single time you delay action, you weaken your spirit in subtle but significant ways. Each time you follow through despite resistance, you strengthen your will. Consider the behind-the-scenes reality of any major accomplishment. The temporary discomfort of discipline, waking up early, pushing through fatigue, facing rejection, feels intense in the moment. Yet this fleeting discomfort is nothing compared to the permanent ache of missed opportunities and unfulfilled potential. The most successful people aren't those who never feel pain. They're those who choose which pain to endure. They've made the decision to embrace the short-term pain of discipline rather than the long-term agony of regret. This mindset revelation completely transforms how you approach challenges. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic by exploring how this principle operates at the neurological level. Your brain is constantly forming pathways based on your decisions. Each time you choose immediate comfort over meaningful action, you're literally rewiring your neural circuitry to prioritize short-term pleasure over long-term fulfillment. Conversely, when you push through resistance and take action despite discomfort, you're strengthening the neural pathways that lead to achievement. This isn't just motivational theory. It's backed by decades of research into neuroplasticity and habit formation. The science behind personal transformation confirms what the most successful among us have always intuitively understood. If you're recognizing these patterns in your own life, write pain of discipline, pain of regret in the comments below. I'm curious how many of you have experienced this powerful truth firsthand. What separates true champions from everyone else isn't raw talent or intelligence. It's their unwavering commitment to completion. One of the most profound revelations in my personal journey came when I realized that half-done work inevitably produces half-lived lives. Think about your own experience for a moment. How many projects sit partially completed? How many ideas were started with enthusiasm but never brought to fruition? The landscape of our modern world is littered with the skeletons of half-finished endeavors. We've become a culture of starters, not finishers. But look closely at anyone who's achieved mastery in any domain. They aren't necessarily faster or more talented than others. Their superpower is simpler, yet infinitely more rare. They're finishers. They refuse to leave tasks incomplete, understanding that the true satisfaction of victory comes only to those who command themselves to endure through completion. This revelation transformed my approach to everything. The breakthrough moment happens when you realize that the ability to finish what you start is perhaps the single most powerful predictor of success. When others abandon ship at the first sign of boredom or difficulty, finishers remain steadfast. The most significant catalyst for transformation isn't in starting new things, it's in seeing your current commitments through to their conclusion. This brings us to another dimension of this mindset shift. Success isn't given, it's forced out of resistance. True achievements aren't handed to us, they're wrested from challenge and opposition through persistent effort. This is the hidden truth behind every overnight success story. Behind the scenes, there were years of pushing against resistance when giving up seemed like the only reasonable option. Each time you rise when it's difficult, when every fiber of your being screams to quit, you're building an unshakable version of yourself. You're literally forging your character through fire. This is the version of you that gets things done, that leads, that ultimately wins. The most beautiful revelation is that resistance isn't your enemy. It's the precise mechanism through which your greatest strength emerges. Think about how diamonds are formed through immense pressure over time. Your character develops through the same process. Every obstacle you face isn't a roadblock on your journey. It's an essential ingredient in your evolution. When you embrace this perspective, challenges become opportunities rather than burdens. The most powerful mindset shift happens when you stop asking, "Why is this so hard?" and start asking, "How is this difficulty strengthening me?" This isn't toxic positivity or spiritual bypassing. It's a pragmatic recognition that resistance is the training ground for excellence. The journey of transformation always involves friction. That's how the caterpillar becomes the butterfly. What I've discovered through countless interviews with high achievers is that they don't succeed despite obstacles. They succeed because of them. The resistance they faced became the catalyst for developing exactly the skills, mindset, and resilience needed to create extraordinary results. If you've experienced the power of pushing through resistance to achieve something meaningful, type "forged through fire" in the comments below. I'm curious how many of you have felt your character being shaped through challenging times. Now let's explore the second mental code that Neville Goddard emphasized throughout his work, the profound ability to command your mind. This represents a fundamental shift in how we approach our inner world and reveals one of the most powerful insights on the path to extraordinary achievement. Discipline isn't just a practice, it's the actual bridge connecting who you are today with who you're destined to become. The revelation that transformed my perspective was understanding that emotions will burn that bridge if you let them lead. Think about your own experience. How many times have your feelings derailed your progress? The blueprint for transformation isn't found in waiting for perfect feelings. It's in creating momentum through unwavering discipline. What distinguishes true winners in any field isn't their absence of negative emotions. It's their ability to act despite them. While emotions fluctuate like unpredictable tides, discipline stands firm like steel. This stability becomes your anchor when everything else seems to be in flux. The breakthrough moment arrives when you realize that your feelings were never meant to be your compass. They were meant to be your weather. Subscribe now to continue your journey of transformation. More powerful mental codes and mindset shifts are waiting for you. Behind the scenes of every significant achievement is a daily battle that few people discuss, the internal war against your own feelings. Each morning, you wake up facing a choice. Will you command your mind, or will your emotions command you? You might feel tired, unmotivated, bored, or doubtful. These feelings aren't neutral. They're actively working to preserve your comfort zone by whispering, "Take it easy," or "Do it later." The hidden truth that revolutionized my journey was realizing that listening to these whispers inevitably means losing. Your future doesn't care how you felt along the way. It only reflects the actions you took despite those feelings. The marketplace rewards execution, not emotion, results, not reasons. This isn't about denying your humanity, it's about reclaiming your authority. The most profound revelation comes when you understand that emotions exist to protect you, not to progress you. They're designed for survival, not transformation. This is why genuine growth almost always feels uncomfortable. It requires you to override emotional signals telling you to remain where you are. The catalyst for extraordinary achievement isn't found in following your feelings, but in transcending them through conscious command. I've interviewed countless individuals at the pinnacle of their fields, from elite athletes to visionary entrepreneurs, and they all share this uncommon ability. They don't wait for motivation before acting. They act first and let motivation catch up. They don't require perfect emotional conditions to move forward. They create forward momentum regardless of how they feel. This mastery of mind doesn't happen accidentally. It's cultivated through intentional practice. Each time you choose discipline over impulse, you're strengthening the neural pathways that give you command over your internal world. This isn't just psychology, it's the neurological foundation for personal sovereignty. If you've experienced moments where you pushed through emotional resistance to accomplish something meaningful, type mind over mood in the comments. I'm fascinated to hear how many of you have glimpsed the power of commanding your mind rather than being commanded by it. Let's explore a profound revelation that completely transformed my understanding of human behavior. Your emotions are designed to protect you, not to progress you. This insight unlocks one of the most powerful mindset shifts available to us. Think about it. Our emotional system evolved primarily to keep us safe, not to help us grow. Emotions are instinctively calibrated for comfort, not expansion, for pleasure, not purpose. This explains why success almost always feels uncomfortable at first. It's not because you're doing something wrong, it's because you're doing something right. The discomfort you feel when pursuing meaningful goals isn't a warning sign, it's a growth indicator. Your emotional system is essentially saying, wait, this is unfamiliar territory. While your higher mind knows this unfamiliar territory is precisely where your evolution happens. The breakthrough comes when you recognize that discipline isn't about suppressing emotions. It's about transcending their limitations. Discipline means doing what you promised long after the feeling that made you say it has faded. It's the ability to honor your commitments to yourself regardless of emotional fluctuations. This is where the journey of transformation truly begins. Perhaps the most liberating revelation on this path is understanding that your feelings are not facts. They're interpretations, not reality. Feeling tired doesn't mean you can't move. Feeling doubtful doesn't mean you won't succeed. Feeling afraid doesn't mean you should stop. These emotions are simply offering suggestions you're free to acknowledge and then override. Behind the scenes of every extraordinary achievement is this fundamental truth. Emotions offer excuses, while discipline delivers results. This isn't about becoming emotionally detached. It's about developing emotional sovereignty. The question isn't whether you'll have feelings. It's whether you'll let those feelings determine your actions. I remember interviewing a world-class athlete who shared something that crystallized this concept for me. She said, "I've never once felt like training at 5 a.m., not once in 20 years. But I've trained at 5 a.m. for 20 years. This perfectly captures the mindset of mastery, not the absence of resistance, but the decision to move despite it. The hidden truth that separates high achievers from everyone else isn't that they don't experience negative emotions. It's that they've developed the capacity to act independently of those emotions. They've cultivated the ability to say, yes, I feel this doubt, fear, fatigue, and I'm going to take action anyway. This is the essence of personal power. This revelation isn't just philosophical, it has profound neurological implications. Each time you act contrary to limiting emotions, you're literally rewiring your brain's response patterns. You're establishing new neural pathways that prioritize your higher intentions over your immediate comfort. This is how transformation happens at the biological level. The ultimate choice we all face becomes startlingly clear. Either control your feelings, or they will control you. There is no middle ground. The quality of your life will be determined by which one becomes the master and which becomes the servant. If you've experienced moments where you recognized an emotion was trying to hold you back, but you moved forward anyway, type feelings facts in the comments. I'm curious how many of you have already begun developing this crucial awareness. Let's explore a game-changing revelation that has transformed countless lives. The moment your brain realizes that Feelings no longer dictate your actions. You unlock a level of freedom most people never experience. This mental breakthrough is like discovering a secret passage that bypasses the emotional gatekeepers of achievement. When you discipline your mind to obey your commands rather than your momentary feelings, you become virtually unstoppable. Think about the implications of this mindset shift. Most people live in a reactive state. They feel motivated, so they act. They feel tired, so they rest. They feel afraid, so they retreat. Their emotions are constantly in the driver's seat. But what happens when you flip this dynamic? What becomes possible when your decisions, not your feelings, determine your actions? This paradigm shift is how empires are built, not through sporadic bursts of motivation that quickly fade, but through the relentless repetition of necessary actions regardless of emotional state. Behind the scenes of every extraordinary achievement is this consistent pattern, showing up day after day, especially on days when motivation is nowhere to be found. I remember interviewing a billionaire entrepreneur who shared something that profoundly changed my perspective. He said, "Most people think my success came from brilliant ideas or lucky breaks. The truth, it came from doing the uncomfortable, necessary things consistently when everyone else made excuses." This encapsulates the essence of mental mastery, the disciplined mind that acts on command. The journey of transformation accelerates when you recognize that discipline isn't just something you do, it's something you become. Each time you act, despite not feeling like it, you reinforce a powerful belief that you're in control. With every decision to override emotional resistance, you're making a declaration to your subconscious mind that you are the authority in your life. Over time, this belief becomes your most powerful weapon, stronger than doubt, stronger than fear, stronger than fatigue. It becomes the foundation of an unshakable identity. The revelation that changed everything for me was understanding that identity drives behavior far more powerfully than willpower ever could. This explains why the psychological landscape is littered with the skeletons of unfinished goals buried under emotional excuses. Most people identify as someone who acts based on feelings rather than someone who acts based on decisions. The graveyard of abandoned dreams isn't filled with people who lacked talent or opportunity. It's filled with people who surrendered their authority to fleeting emotions. The catalyst for extraordinary achievement comes when you make this fundamental identity shift. From someone who needs to feel like doing something to someone who does what needs to be done, regardless of feeling. This isn't about ignoring your emotions. It's about transcending their limitations through conscious command. What's fascinating about this process is that it creates a virtuous cycle. Each act of discipline strengthens your identity as a disciplined person, which makes the next disciplined action easier, which further reinforces your identity. This is how seemingly ordinary individuals accomplish extraordinary things, not through sporadic heroics, but through consistent identity-aligned actions. If you've experienced moments where you realized your mind was becoming more obedient to your commands rather than your feelings, type "commander of my mind" in the comments. I'm intrigued to hear from those who are developing this transformative relationship with their own psychology. Now let's explore the third mental code that completely revolutionized my understanding of achievement: the principle of choosing the right pain. This revelation may be the most confronting yet liberating truth on your journey to transformation. Here it is. No one escapes pain. Not the weak, not the strong, not the rich, not the poor. Life demands payment from everyone. The breakthrough, insight that changed everything for me, was realizing we don't get to choose whether we experience pain. We only get to choose which pain we experience. You either pay in sweat now, or you pay in sorrow later. The pain of effort is temporary and transformative, but the pain of regret lasts forever and offers nothing in return. Think about this illuminating paradigm shift for a moment. Most people structure their entire lives around avoiding discomfort. They make decisions based on what feels easier in the moment, not realizing they're actually choosing a much heavier burden down the road. The enlightenment comes when you recognize that pain isn't the enemy, it's the currency of growth. When you push yourself through discipline, when you rise early, work hard, face your fears, or persist through challenges, it hurts. It exhausts you. It tests your resolve. But this pain has purpose. It's the sculptor's chisel, shaping you into something greater than you were before. Every repetition, every challenge, every sacrifice becomes a deposit into your future power. Regret, by contrast, is a silent, cold, and permanent companion. It doesn't build, it breaks. It visits you in those quiet moments when you realize you could have been more, done more, lived more, but didn't. It's the weight that sits on your chest when you see others living the life you could have built if you'd been willing to embrace necessary discomfort. The revelation that transformed countless lives in my coaching practice was understanding that when you choose effort, you suffer once and grow forever. When you choose comfort, you escape pain now only to drown in it later. This awareness fundamentally shifts your relationship with discomfort. You begin to see it not as something to avoid, but as the very pathway to your evolution. Behind the scenes of every extraordinary journey is this fundamental choice point, the decision to embrace the pain that builds rather than the pain that breaks. This isn't about glorifying suffering, it's about recognizing the profound difference between constructive and destructive pain. One leads to expansion, the other to contraction. What's fascinating about this mindset shift is how it completely recalibrates your decision-making framework. When faced with a challenging choice, you no longer ask, what's easier? Instead, you ask, which pain will serve my growth? This single question has the power to redirect the entire trajectory of your life. The enlightenment comes when you realize that the pain of discipline actually diminishes over time, while the pain of regret compounds. Each act of discipline makes the next one easier, creating an upward spiral of growth. Meanwhile, each act of avoidance makes the next challenge harder, creating a downward spiral of limitation. If you've experienced moments where you consciously chose the productive pain of effort over the destructive pain of avoidance, type right pain, right growth in the comments. I'm deeply interested in hearing from those who have embraced this transformative principle in their own lives. Let's examine the profound wisdom in this choice more deeply. Most people instinctively avoid discomfort, constantly seeking the path of least resistance. It's written into our biological programming: avoid pain, seek pleasure. But here's the revolutionary insight that transformed my perspective. Every opportunity for growth that you skip due to momentary discomfort compounds into future regret. Think about the decisions you've made over the past year. How many times did you choose immediate comfort over meaningful action? Each individual choice might have seemed insignificant at the time: skipping a workout, postponing that difficult conversation, delaying work on your passion project. But these micro-decisions accumulate, shaping your identity and determining your destiny through invisible compound interest. The revelation that changed everything for me was understanding the fundamental nature of these two types of pain. The pain of effort is honest and upfront. It doesn't hide its intentions or its intensity. You know exactly what you're getting into when you choose the challenging path. And behind this honest pain lies something extraordinary: genuine pride. Not ego or arrogance, but the quiet confidence that comes from knowing you've earned your achievements through disciplined action. Now contrast this with the insidious nature of regret. The pain of regret operates like a master thief. It doesn't just take your achievements, it steals your peace, your confidence, your joy, and ultimately, your sense of what might have been possible. It's the weight that sits on your chest when you witness others living the life you could have built if you'd been willing to embrace necessary discomfort. The most devastating aspect of this thief is its permanence. Time never gives second chances on missed opportunities. You can't go back and make different choices. The moment passes, and with it the possibility. This explains why every authentic success story throughout history is written in the ink of effort, not in the invisible ink of good intentions. I remember interviewing a 78-year-old former Olympic athlete who shared something that crystallized this concept perfectly. He said, "I've never once regretted pushing myself too hard, but I have a lifetime of regrets about the times I didn't push hard enough." This wisdom reflects a universal truth about human experience. We rarely regret the difficult things we did, but we almost always regret the meaningful things we didn't do. The enlightenment comes when you realize that the discomfort of discipline is actually a gateway to freedom, while the comfort of avoidance is a pathway to imprisonment. Every time you choose the challenging path, when you rise early, when you face your fears, when you persist through difficulty, you're not just accomplishing a task. You're liberating yourself from the far heavier burden of what might have been. This revelation catalyzes a complete transformation in how you approach challenges. You begin to see discomfort not as an obstacle to happiness, but as the very vehicle that delivers it. The question shifts from, how can I avoid pain, to which pain will serve my evolution? If you felt the weight of regret from choosing comfort when you knew effort was the right choice, type "choosing effort from now on" in the comments. I believe this awareness alone can completely redirect your life's trajectory. Let's explore another dimension of this transformative principle. A revelation that completely changed my understanding of pain's purpose. Discipline doesn't actually eliminate pain from your life. It does something far more powerful. It redirects it. This subtle shift in perspective changes everything. When you embrace discipline, every repetition, every challenge, and every sacrifice becomes a conscious deposit into your future power. Think about how different this is from the conventional mindset. Most people view discipline as deprivation, something that diminishes their experience. The enlightenment comes when you recognize it's actually an investment, not a sacrifice. Behind the scenes of every extraordinary achievement is this hidden truth. The disciplined individual isn't avoiding pain. They're transforming it into strength. While others are haunted by the ghosts of their excuses and the persistent echo of "what if," the disciplined person moves forward in freedom, having paid their dues in effort rather than regret. This revelation creates a fundamental shift in your relationship with discomfort. Instead of asking, "How can I avoid this pain?" you begin asking, "How is this pain serving my evolution?" This single question transforms everything from exercise to difficult conversations to creative challenges. The pain doesn't disappear. It becomes purposeful. What's fascinating about this journey of transformation is that we instinctively understand this principle in physical training. No one expects to get stronger without the resistance of weights, or faster without the strain of speed work. Yet somehow, we expect mental, emotional, and spiritual growth without corresponding resistance. The breakthrough happens when you apply this same principle across all dimensions of your life. Perhaps the most profound insight from Goddard's work is this: you can recover from failure, but you can never recover from the life you never lived. Failure isn't final, it's formative. It provides feedback, builds resilience, and reveals pathways forward. But regret offers nothing except the hollow echo of what might have been. The pain of effort is actually a powerful signal. It means you're in the fight. It means you're alive, growing, and evolving. It means you're choosing to matter rather than merely exist. Every person who has ever accomplished anything meaningful has felt this exact same pain and faced the same temptation to quit, but they chose to endure. This perspective completely reframes how we view discomfort. The burn of effort becomes not something to avoid, but something to embrace as evidence you're moving in the right direction. Just as physical pain alerts you to a threat, growth pain alerts you to an opportunity, the opportunity to become more than you currently are. The catalyst for extraordinary achievement isn't found in avoiding challenge, but in reinterpreting its meaning. What if the very difficulties you're facing aren't obstacles to your success, but the actual pathway to it? What if the resistance you feel isn't preventing your growth, but creating the necessary conditions for it? If you've experienced moments where you recognized that a particular struggle was actually strengthening you for something greater, type pain with purpose in the comments. I'm deeply curious about how many of you have glimpsed this transformative perspective in your own journey. Now let's explore the fourth mental code that has transformed countless lives: the profound realization that action creates power. This insight completely inverts how most people approach achievement and reveals why so many dreams remain unfulfilled. Here's the revelation that changed everything for me. The world doesn't pay for ideas. It pays for execution. Think about this revolutionary perspective for a moment. You can spend endless hours thinking, planning, visualizing, and preparing, all valuable activities in their place, but none of it matters until you move. The difference between those who merely wish and those who actually win isn't talent or opportunity. It's simpler and more profound. Action. Movement is power. Motion creates momentum. This understanding completely transformed my journey when I realized how many of my dreams remained trapped in the realm of thought. The breakthrough moment comes when you recognize that all the planning in the world can't replace the simple act of beginning. Behind the scenes of every extraordinary achievement is this fundamental truth: someone stopped thinking about it and started doing it. What makes this insight so revolutionary is how it contradicts our intuitive approach to new challenges. Most people wait for the right time, that mythical moment when they'll feel completely ready, when conditions will be perfect, when all obstacles will magically disappear. But here's the hidden truth that changes everything. Power doesn't appear before action. It's created by action. The energy, clarity, and confidence you're waiting for don't exist before you begin. They're generated by the very act of moving forward. This explains why the most successful people in any domain don't wait until they feel powerful to act. They act in order to generate power. The catalyst for transformation isn't found in endless preparation, but in that first, often imperfect step. I remember interviewing a renowned entrepreneur who shared something that perfectly crystallizes this concept. She said, "The biggest mistake I see people make is waiting until they feel confident to take action. But confidence is a result of action, not a prerequisite for it." This insight completely reframes how we approach new challenges and opportunities. What's fascinating about this principle is that it operates at both the psychological and neurological levels. When you take action, your brain releases neurochemicals that create energy, focus, and motivation, the very feelings you were waiting for before starting. The first step may be small, but it ignites everything else. Nothing is harder than starting, yet nothing is more powerful than progress once begun. This revelation is particularly liberating because it frees you from the tyranny of perfect conditions. You no longer need to wait for inspiration, confidence, or clarity. You simply need to move, and those qualities will emerge from your movement. The act of beginning, however imperfect, creates a momentum that carries you forward even when motivation wanes. The journey of transformation accelerates when you embrace this simple but profound truth. Power isn't something you accumulate before acting, it's something you generate through action. Every step forward, no matter how small, creates energy for the next step. If you've experienced moments where taking action created the very energy or confidence you were initially lacking, type "action first, power follows" in the comments. I'm curious how many of you have discovered this transformative principle through your own experiences. Let's examine another dimension of this powerful principle that completely revolutionized my approach to achievement. Here's a counterintuitive truth that transformed countless lives. You can't think your way into confidence. You must act your way into it. This revelation directly contradicts how most people approach challenging situations. Think about your own experience for a moment. How many opportunities have slipped through your fingers because you were waiting to feel confident before taking action? The breakthrough insight that changed everything for me was recognizing that every moment of hesitation allows doubt to take root, growing stronger with each passing second. Overthinking has killed more dreams than failure ever could. I love the metaphor one of my mentors shared that perfectly captures this concept. You can't steer a parked car, it must be in motion. No amount of contemplation will provide the clarity you're seeking. The illumination you're waiting for doesn't precede action, it emerges from it. Clarity comes after movement, not before. This explains why the most successful individuals in any field don't wait for perfect understanding before beginning. They understand that insight emerges through engagement. The most transformative revelation on this journey is understanding how action literally rewires your neural pathways. Every repetition strengthens your mind and hardens your will in ways that thinking alone never could. Each step forward reinforces the belief in your capability, creating a positive feedback loop of achievement. This is the hidden mechanism behind mastery that few people discuss, the neurological transformation that occurs through consistent action. What's fascinating about this process is how quickly it becomes self-reinforcing. Progress becomes genuinely addictive. The more you act, the stronger you become, creating momentum that propels you forward even when motivation inevitably fades. Behind the scenes of every extraordinary achievement is this fundamental truth. Success isn't built in occasional bursts of inspiration, but in the daily grind of forward motion. I remember interviewing a renowned surgeon who shared something that crystallized this concept perfectly. He said, "I wasn't confident during my first surgery, or my 10th, or even my 50th. But somewhere around my 100th procedure, I realized confidence had quietly built itself while I was busy showing up." This perfectly illustrates the paradox. Confidence isn't a prerequisite for action, it's a byproduct of it. The enlightenment comes when you stop seeing action as something you do once you're ready, and start recognizing it as the very process that makes you ready. This perspective shift liberates you from the paralysis of preparation and launches you into the transformative cycle of action, feedback, adjustment, and growth. What's truly revolutionary about this mindset is how it completely dismantles the common belief that you need to feel prepared before beginning. The most successful people across all domains understand that preparation is important, but it's only through action that true readiness emerges. Every skill you currently possess, from walking to your professional expertise, was developed not through thinking, but through doing. If you've ever noticed how taking that first difficult step created momentum that carried you forward, type "action creates clarity" in the comments. I'm deeply interested in hearing about moments where you discovered this principle through your own lived experience. Now let's explore one of the most powerful revelations about action that completely transformed my understanding of achievement. Here's the insight that changed everything. Action turns chaos into clarity. This principle operates contrary to how most people approach uncertainty. They wait for clarity before acting, not realizing that clarity emerges primarily through movement. Think about your own experience with any significant challenge. You likely started with confusion, uncertain about the best approach, overwhelmed by options, or unsure about your capabilities. The breakthrough comes when you recognize that through movement, this noise gradually fades. The path forward doesn't reveal itself to those who wait, but to those who walk. This is how genuine power is born, not through waiting, but through doing. Behind the scenes of every masterful performance is this fundamental truth. The master wasn't born with clarity. They developed it through consistent action. They started with the same confusion you feel, but instead of waiting for it to dissipate, they moved through it. With each step forward, the unnecessary fell away, revealing what actually works and what doesn't. What makes this insight so transformative is how it completely reframes our relationship with uncertainty. Most people see confusion as a signal to pause, to gather more information, to wait for the fog to clear. But what if confusion isn't a stop sign but a starting gun? What if the very action you're avoiding is precisely what would dispel the confusion you're experiencing? I remember interviewing a renowned composer who shared something that perfectly crystallizes this concept. He said, "I've written over 1,000 pieces of music, and I've started every single one feeling completely lost. The clarity never comes before I begin. It emerges note by note as I engage with the process." This perfectly illustrates how creation precedes clarity, not the other way around. The most illuminating aspect of this journey is discovering that when you move, you immediately separate yourself from 99% of people. This isn't hyperbole. It's a stark reality. The world is filled with dreamers who never begin, planners who never execute, visionaries who never create. The moment you take that first step, however imperfect, you enter the rarefied territory of doers. This revelation completely changed my perception of competition. I realized that true power belongs not to those with the greatest talent or the most resources, but to those who act while others talk, who push when others pause, who say let's go when others say someday. The competitive advantage isn't found in ability alone, but in the willingness to begin. The catalyst for extraordinary achievement comes at that pivotal moment when you break inertia and take control of your direction instead of waiting for life to decide it for you. This single decision, to move forward despite uncertainty, represents the fundamental dividing line between those who merely wish for a different life and those who create one. If you've experienced a situation where taking action dissolved confusion that no amount of thinking could solve, type action. Clears the fog in the comments. I'm fascinated to hear about moments where movement created the very clarity you were initially seeking. Let's explore the fifth mental code that has the power to completely revolutionize your life, the absolute necessity to destroy your comfort zone. This principle reveals one of the most deceptive forces working against your greatness. Here's the revelation that transformed my understanding. Comfort is a silent killer. Unlike other threats that announce themselves loudly, comfort operates with stealth and patience. Think about this profound insight for a moment. Comfort doesn't destroy you all at once in some dramatic fashion. Instead, it quietly drains your strength, your hunger, and your potential one lazy day at a time. The enlightenment comes when you recognize that your comfort zone isn't the sanctuary you believed it to be. It's actually a beautifully decorated prison that appears safe while slowly suffocating your greatness. Behind the scenes of this invisible threat is a fundamental truth that most people never confront. The comfort zone offers security at the price of growth. It promises protection but delivers stagnation. The most dangerous aspect of this arrangement is how reasonable it seems in the moment. Of course, it makes sense to avoid discomfort, to seek ease, to stay where things are predictable. But this reasonable-sounding choice accumulates into an extraordinary cost over time. The breakthrough insight that changed everything for me was understanding that nothing truly extraordinary ever grows in comfortable conditions. This isn't just motivational rhetoric. It's a fundamental law of development that applies across all domains. Nothing powerful is built in ease. No meaningful transformation occurs without resistance. The comfort zone isn't just neutral territory. It's the actual graveyard of potential, where people unconsciously trade purpose for pleasure, growth for safety, meaning for convenience. I remember interviewing a renowned artist who shared something that perfectly crystallizes this concept. She said, "The most dangerous moment in my career wasn't when I failed. It was when I became comfortable with moderate success. That comfort nearly killed my creativity." This illuminates a profound truth. Peace without progress isn't actually peace at all. It's poison disguised as contentment. The journey of transformation accelerates when you recognize that comfort isn't your ally. It's your adversary in disguise. The revelation that liberated countless lives in my coaching practice was realizing that discomfort isn't a warning sign to retreat. It's actually a growth indicator signaling you're moving in the right direction. What if the very feelings you're trying to avoid are precisely the feelings that precede breakthrough? This perspective completely inverts our relationship with comfort and challenge. Most people organize their lives around minimizing discomfort, not realizing they're simultaneously minimizing their potential. The catalyst for extraordinary achievement comes when you deliberately seek out the edges of your capabilities, the uncomfortable territory where growth occurs, rather than retreating to the familiar center. What if you began intentionally doing things that make you uncomfortable, not for the sake of discomfort itself, but for the expansion that lies on the other side of it? This isn't about reckless risk-taking. It's about strategic discomfort that stretches you beyond your current limitations. If you've experienced a moment where stepping outside your comfort zone led to unexpected growth or opportunity, type "comfortable with discomfort" in the comments. I'm deeply curious about how many of you have glimpsed the power of intentionally destroying your comfort zone. Let's explore a profound revelation that completely shifts how we understand achievement. The strongest minds are not born in comfort. They're forged through struggle. When you examine the journey of anyone who's created extraordinary results in any domain, you discover this consistent pattern. Behind the scenes of every success story is a biography of pressure, challenge, and discomfort that shaped them into who they became. Think about this transformative insight for a moment. The very discomfort you instinctively avoid is precisely what builds your edge, sharpens your capabilities, and develops your resilience. This isn't coincidence. It's causal. Pressure doesn't just reveal character, it creates it. The enlightenment comes when you recognize that the pain you're trying to escape is actually the catalyst for your evolution. I remember interviewing an Olympic gold medalist who shared something that perfectly crystallized this concept. He said, "People see the medal and assume I was blessed with natural talent. What they don't see are the thousands of hours I spent in pain, doubt, and exhaustion, deliberately putting myself in situations where failure was not just possible, but probable." This illuminates a profound truth. Every time you face resistance rather than avoid it, you're literally sharpening your spirit. The breakthrough moment in this journey of transformation arrives when you recognize that your comfort zone isn't just limiting your achievements. It's actively feeding you lies that keep you trapped in mediocrity. These deceptions are particularly dangerous because they sound so reasonable. You've done enough for today. You deserve a break. You can start again tomorrow. This is good enough. But here's the revelation that changed everything for me. Comfort never gave anyone true freedom. It only gave them regret. Freedom doesn't come from avoiding challenge. It comes from developing the capacity to meet it. The people living small, constrained lives didn't necessarily fail at anything specific. They simply stopped trying. They accepted the boundaries of their comfort zone as the boundaries of their potential. What makes this insight so powerful is how it completely inverts our understanding of comfort and discomfort. Most people believe freedom means the absence of struggle, but the opposite is true. Real freedom is the capacity to act effectively despite struggle. It's not about eliminating resistance, it's about developing the strength to move through it. The catalyst for extraordinary achievement comes when you stop seeing discomfort as something to avoid and start recognizing it as the actual pathway to your evolution. What if every challenge you face isn't an obstacle to your happiness, but the very means by which you develop the capacity for deeper fulfillment? What if the struggle you're avoiding is precisely what would forge you into the person capable of creating what you desire? This perspective completely transforms how you approach difficulty. Instead of asking, "How can I make this easier?" you begin asking, "How is this difficulty strengthening me?" This isn't about glorifying suffering. It's about recognizing the transformative power of purposeful challenge. If you've noticed how past struggles actually shaped you into someone stronger than before, type "forged by fire" in the comments. I'm deeply curious about moments where what seemed like an obstacle actually became a catalyst for your growth. Let's explore a fundamental truth that revolutionizes how we approach growth. The revelation that genuine transformation always begins at the edge of discomfort. This insight completely reframes our relationship with challenge. Think about it, that uncomfortable territory where uncertainty lives, where fear resides, where challenge waits, that's not a warning sign to retreat. It's actually the precise location where meaningful change happens. This perspective shift changes everything. The edge of your comfort zone isn't a boundary to avoid, it's a threshold to cross. The enlightenment comes when you recognize that every significant achievement in human history has hidden behind a wall of pain. Not because pain is punishment, but because it's proof you're growing. This isn't about glorifying suffering, it's about understanding its purpose in the alchemy of transformation. I remember interviewing a renowned surgeon who shared something that perfectly crystallizes this concept. She said, "The moment I stopped seeing nervousness before a complex procedure as something negative and started recognizing it as my body, preparing for growth, that's when my skills accelerated exponentially." This illuminates a profound truth. The discomfort you feel at the edge isn't a signal to retreat. It's the sensation of your capabilities expanding. What makes this insight so powerful is how it completely reorients your relationship with fear. Most people use fear as a compass pointing to what they should avoid. But what if fear is actually highlighting precisely what you should approach? The breakthrough moment comes when you realize that the things that frighten you are often the exact experiences required for your evolution. The catalyst for extraordinary achievement isn't found in eliminating discomfort. It's found in reinterpreting its meaning and deliberately making it your new normal. This represents a fundamental paradigm shift. Instead of organizing your life around comfort, you begin intentionally structuring it around strategic discomfort that serves your growth. This means practical, daily decisions that push against your current limitations, waking earlier than you want to, doing the work when you don't feel like it, taking risks that scare you, speaking when your voice shakes. Each time you consciously choose the harder path, you're breaking the invisible chains of comfort that keep most people perpetually stuck in mediocrity. Behind the scenes of this journey is a fascinating neurological process. When you repeatedly expose yourself to manageable discomfort, your nervous system literally recalibrates. What once triggered stress becomes your new baseline. This explains why extraordinary achievers can operate effectively in conditions that would paralyze most people. They haven't eliminated discomfort, they've expanded their capacity to function within it. The revelation that transformed my approach to growth was recognizing that discomfort isn't just something to endure on the path to achievement. It's actually the mechanism of achievement itself. The resistance you feel when pushing beyond your comfort zone isn't an obstacle to your development. It's the essential catalyst for it. If you've noticed how deliberately stepping into uncomfortable situations has expanded your capabilities in ways that staying comfortable never could, type "growth at the edge" in the comments. I'm fascinated to hear about specific moments where embracing discomfort became a doorway to your evolution. Now let's explore the sixth mental code that completely transforms how we approach achievement. The profound principle that consistency trumps motivation every time. This revelation represents one of the most powerful mindset shifts available to us. Here's the insight that changed everything for me. Motivation gets you started, but consistency keeps you moving. Think about this transformative distinction for a moment. Everyone loves the feeling of motivation, that intoxicating rush of excitement that makes you believe you can conquer anything. It feels incredible in the moment, electrifying your actions with purpose and energy. But here's the hidden truth that most people never confront. Motivation is inherently fragile. It fades with mood, fluctuates with circumstances, and disappears precisely when you need it most. The enlightenment comes when you recognize that motivation was never meant to be your power source. It's merely a spark. Trying to build a life of achievement on motivation alone is like trying to heat your home with a match. The revelation that changed everything for me was understanding that consistency, showing up day after day, regardless of how you feel, is the actual fuel that drives lasting transformation. Behind the scenes of every extraordinary achievement is this fundamental truth: winners don't rely on how they feel, they rely on what they do. This insight completely inverts the conventional approach to accomplishment. While most people wait for the feeling of motivation before taking action, high achievers take action, regardless of feeling. I remember interviewing a world champion athlete who shared something that perfectly crystallizes this concept. She said, "The difference between me and equally talented competitors isn't what we do on our best days. It's what we do on our worst days." This illuminates a profound truth. The gap between ordinary and extraordinary isn't primarily about motivation, it's about consistency. What makes this principle so revolutionary is how it completely reframes our relationship with achievement. Anyone can work hard when feeling good, when energy is high, when the task is exciting. But champions work hard especially when they don't feel like it. The breakthrough moment comes when you realize that your feelings about the work are ultimately irrelevant to the necessity of doing the work. The catalyst for extraordinary achievement isn't found in sporadic bursts of inspiration, but in the unglamorous commitment to showing up consistently. This isn't about denying the value of motivation. It's about recognizing its limitations and building a system that succeeds even when motivation inevitably fades. The journey of transformation accelerates when you shift your focus from how you feel about your actions to the consistency of your actions themselves. What if you stopped waiting to feel ready and simply committed to showing up every day? What if consistency became your identity rather than merely your behavior? If you've experienced the power of consistency overriding your fluctuating motivation, type "consistency is currency" in the comments. I'm deeply curious about specific moments where showing up, despite not feeling motivated, created breakthroughs in your life. Let's explore another dimension of consistency that completely revolutionized my understanding of achievement. Here's a truth that transformed countless lives. Consistency is the ultimate equalizer in a world obsessed with innate advantages. This revelation offers a profound hope, because it places extraordinary results within reach of everyone willing to show up daily, regardless of starting point. Think about the liberating implications of this principle. You don't need to be the smartest person in the room, the fastest on the field, or the most naturally talented in your domain. If you're the most consistent, the one who shows up without fail when others make excuses, you will eventually win. This insight completely reframes our understanding of what drives success. Behind the scenes of every overnight success is this hidden truth. Consistency outlasts talent, outworks luck, and outperforms virtually everything else. While talent creates a head start, consistency is what crosses the finish line. While luck creates opportunities, consistency creates readiness to seize them. The breakthrough moment comes when you realize that showing up day after day creates a compounding advantage that eventually overcomes any initial disadvantage. I remember interviewing a renowned author who shared something that crystallized this concept perfectly. She said, "People always ask about my writing talent, but they never ask about my ability to sit in the chair every day for 30 years, regardless of inspiration. The latter is why I succeeded." This illuminates a profound truth. What appears as extraordinary talent is often the result of ordinary actions performed with extraordinary consistency. The journey of transformation accelerates when you make another crucial mindset shift. Stop chasing feelings and start creating systems. This insight completely inverts how most people approach achievement. Instead of waiting for the right feeling to take action, you design a system of daily actions that doesn't require emotional alignment to function. What makes this approach so revolutionary is that systems don't care about emotions. They're specifically designed to make success automatic and independent of how you feel. When you have a well-designed system of daily actions, you no longer need motivation to begin. The action itself becomes integrated into your identity rather than depending on fluctuating emotional states. Think about the most foundational systems in your life. Brushing your teeth, driving to work, preparing meals. You don't require motivation for these activities because they're systematized. The enlightenment comes when you apply this same principle to your highest aspirations. What if your most important goals were supported by systems so robust that your feelings about them became irrelevant to their completion? The catalyst for extraordinary achievement comes when you shift from being someone who takes action when they feel motivated to someone who takes action, because that's simply who they are. This identity-level transformation creates a foundation for success that transcends the limitations of motivation. If you've experienced the power of creating systems that work, regardless of how you feel about them, type "systems over feelings" in the comments. I'm deeply curious about specific systems you've implemented that have created consistency in your life, despite emotional fluctuations. Let's explore another dimension of consistency that completely transforms how we approach achievement. The revelation that turns conventional wisdom on its head. Action creates motivation, not the other way around. This insight represents one of the most liberating mindset shifts available to us, because it frees you from waiting for the perfect emotional state before taking action. Think about how most people approach important tasks. They wait for inspiration, for the right mood, for that magical feeling of motivation before beginning. The breakthrough comes when you recognize this approach has the sequence entirely backward. The feeling of motivation doesn't precede action. It emerges from action already in progress. This revelation changed everything for me when I realized I could no longer wait for perfect moods or perfect timing. The perfect time is always now, not because now is actually perfect, but because waiting for perfection guarantees paralysis. The journey of transformation accelerates when you train yourself to move first and feel later, understanding that once you start moving, the feeling will follow. Behind the scenes of every extraordinary achievement is this hidden truth. Action precedes motivation. I remember interviewing a renowned composer who shared something that crystallized this concept perfectly. He said, "I've never once sat down to write feeling inspired. The inspiration always arrives about 20 minutes after I've already started writing." This illuminates a profound truth that completely inverts our understanding of the creative process. What makes this insight so powerful is how it puts the catalyst for motivation directly in your control. Instead of waiting passively for inspiration to strike, you actively generate it through deliberate engagement. This represents a fundamental shift from being a victim of your emotional states to being their architect. Now let's explore an insight that completely transformed how I understand the journey to mastery. The counterintuitive truth that boredom is actually the doorway to extraordinary skill. This revelation directly contradicts how most people approach achievement. When tasks become repetitive or monotonous, most people quit, seeking novelty or excitement elsewhere. But here's where the separation happens. When others abandon ship because of boredom, masters keep going. The enlightenment comes when you recognize that the plateau of boredom, that seemingly endless stretch where progress feels imperceptible, is precisely where the deepest transformation occurs. It's in the repetitive practice, the mundane consistency, the showing up when it's no longer exciting that skill truly deepens, focus sharpens, and strength multiplies. What makes this principle so revolutionary is how it completely reframes our relationship with boredom. Most see it as a signal to stop or switch directions. But what if boredom isn't a warning sign but a gateway, the necessary threshold you must cross to access higher levels of mastery? This perspective transforms boredom from an obstacle into an indicator that you're on the right path. If you've experienced moments where pushing through boredom led to unexpected breakthroughs in your skills, type boredom before breakthrough in the comments. I'm fascinated to hear about specific instances where consistency through monotony created extraordinary results in your journey. Now, let's explore the seventh and final mental code that has the power to completely transform your results. The principle that separates dreamers from achievers. Finish what you start. This revelation might be the most crucial of all, because it directly addresses why so many people with talent, knowledge, and even motivation still fail to create extraordinary outcomes in their lives. Here's the insight that changed everything for me. Starting is easy, but finishing is rare. Think about this profound truth for a moment. Everyone loves new beginnings, the excitement of a fresh project, the dopamine rush of a new goal, the unlimited potential that exists before reality sets in. But here's the hidden truth behind achievement. Winners aren't defined by how fast they begin, but by how fiercely they finish. The landscape of human endeavor is littered with abandoned projects, half-completed courses, unfinished manuscripts, and dreams left to wither in the difficult middle stages. The world is full of starters, but remarkably empty of finishers precisely because finishing requires something most people avoid: the triad of pain, persistence, and patience. The breakthrough comes when you recognize that your willingness to endure these three elements is what separates you from the masses. Behind the scenes of every remarkable achievement is this fundamental reality. The final 10% of any significant journey is where the true power lies. This revelation completely transformed my approach to projects when I realized most people abandon ship precisely when the most valuable growth is about to occur. When the excitement fades, when progress slows, when obstacles arise, that's when the separation happens. Most people look for exits when things get tough. Winners look for endurance. What makes this principle so revolutionary is how it completely inverts our relationship with difficulty. The challenging final stretch of any meaningful endeavor isn't an unfortunate obstacle to completion. It's actually the most valuable part of the entire process. The enlightenment comes when you realize this is precisely where mastery lives and character is carved. I remember interviewing a renowned entrepreneur who shared something that crystallized this concept perfectly. She said, "Everyone wants to know the secret to success. Here it is, finish, that's it. The ability to complete what you start isn't just another skill. It's the skill that makes all other skills valuable." This illuminates a profound truth. The world doesn't primarily reward those who start brilliantly. It rewards those who finish relentlessly. The journey of transformation accelerates when you make this commitment not just to individual projects, but to your entire approach to life. What if you became known, first to yourself, then to others, as someone who simply doesn't leave things incomplete? What if finishing became part of your identity rather than merely your behavior? If you've experienced the satisfaction of pushing through resistance to complete something meaningful when others would have quit, type "I finish what I start" in the comments. I'm deeply curious about specific moments where your commitment to completion created breakthrough results in your life. Let's explore another dimension of finishing that reveals why it's so transformative. A revelation that completely shifted my understanding of achievement. When you complete what you start, you build something far more valuable than just the success itself. You build self-respect. This insight illuminates why finishing is such a catalyst for transformation on multiple levels. Think about what happens internally when you honor your commitment to complete something challenging. It's not just about the external result, it's about the relationship you're developing with yourself. Each time you follow through on your word, you're telling yourself, "I am someone who can be trusted." This internal credibility becomes a form of psychological capital more valuable than any external validation. Behind the scenes of every extraordinary achiever is this fundamental truth: winners protect their word to themselves like gold. They understand that real success doesn't depend primarily on talent or opportunity, but on staying committed precisely when no one else believes in you, sometimes including yourself. The breakthrough comes when you realize that your ability to trust yourself is the foundation for everything else you'll ever build. I remember interviewing a renowned architect who shared something that perfectly crystallizes this concept. She said, "My greatest achievement isn't any building I've designed. It's the knowledge that when I make a commitment to myself, it's as binding as a legal contract with my most important client." This illuminates a profound truth. The relationship you have with your own word creates the blueprint for every other relationship in your life. What makes this principle so revolutionary is how it creates a virtuous cycle of achievement. Each completed project builds not just accomplishment but momentum, a force that carries you forward into your next challenge with greater conviction. The enlightenment comes when you recognize that finishing isn't just about the individual achievement. It's about who you become through the process of honoring your commitments. Now let's explore the ultimate dimension of this principle. The transformation that occurs when finishing becomes not just something you do, but something you are. This represents the most powerful evolution in your relationship with achievement, making finishing your actual identity. Don't just be someone who starts projects, be someone who completes them, period. This identity-level commitment transcends individual goals or tasks. It's about building a fundamental reputation with yourself that says, "If I begin it, I finish it." What makes this mindset so transformative is how it spills into every dimension of your life: your work, your health, your relationships, your purpose. When finishing becomes who you are rather than merely what you do, it creates a foundation for extraordinary results across all domains. The catalyst for this transformation comes when you shift your internal narrative from "I should finish" this to "I am a finisher." This seemingly subtle change represents a profound rewiring of your self-concept. It's the difference between seeing completion as an external behavior and recognizing it as an expression of your core identity. If you've experienced how finishing something difficult changed not just your results, but your relationship with yourself, type "identity shift" in the comments. I'm deeply curious about moments where completing what you started transformed your self-perception in powerful ways. If you've made it this far, I want to thank you for joining me on this journey through Neville Goddard's powerful mental codes. What we've explored today isn't just theory. It's a practical framework for transformation that has changed countless lives, including my own. I create these videos because I genuinely believe these principles have the power to completely rewire how we approach life's challenges. If you found value in what we've shared today, consider subscribing to continue this journey of growth together. Each week, we explore these deeper dimensions of achievement and personal mastery that most content never touches. I'm curious, which of these mental codes resonated most deeply with you? If something in this message felt like it was speaking directly to your current situation, drop "code activated" in the comments. Your insights often become the catalyst for future explorations on this channel. If you found this conversation valuable, a simple like helps more people discover these ideas who might be searching for exactly this message at exactly the right moment in their lives. And speaking of perfect timing, I've created a video that perfectly complements what we've discussed today, diving deeper into how these mental codes can be applied to overcome your specific obstacles. Click the video appearing now, and let's continue this conversation there. The journey has only just begun.